Hey Jackal, I'm Simon, and in today's video we'll take a look at Dehancer, which is a paid plugin for DaVinci Resolve and also Adobe After Effects, Premiere and Final Cut Pro, and I will compare it to the new Film Look Creator plugin, which can be found in the studio version of DaVinci Resolve. And this one costs $95, so I'll compare just these two features. Now I have already applied the Film Look Creator to one clip, and this is the look that you can get, but now I'll apply it to a new clip so we can compare the default settings to the changes that I've done to this clip. So apply this to this clip and take a look at the changes. Those are quite the changes from the default look and the changes that I've made. So we can go to the Inspector tab and we'll have all of the settings that we can apply. Now this option, as you can see, enable disable effects will not be represented in the LUT. So if you enable this option, you can only adjust these settings. Now the Dehancer plugin is also found in the Open Effects, and I will put this to the second clip. And this is how this looks by default. Now let's go over the settings of the Film Look Creator and the settings of the Dehancer. Now the Film Look Creator has some presets that you can choose from. You have default 65, default 35, cinematic, bleach bypass, nostalgic, defaults with no effects, and custom. You have the color space overrides. If you want to make any changes, this is where you can do those. I'm just going over this quickly so you can see what options you have available. But I think all of the options are the same, at least for this section. You have different options when it comes to the white point. Now the changes that you'll most likely be doing is in the color settings. So you can adjust the exposure, the contrast, highlights. In this case I may need to adjust the exposure down a bit so we can actually see some of the highlights. The fade, white balance, the tint, skin bias. The skin bias is not the best in this example because you don't have any people in the shot, but the orange color is also a part of the skin tone, so that is why it also applies to the color. Then we have the subtractive saturation, the richness of it, and the bleach bypass. You can also hover over the names so you can get the idea of what it does. Now let's go over the split tone. By default it is disabled, you have to enable it and adjust the amount. Maybe I like this one. You can adjust the hue angle. And you also can adjust the pivot. Then we have vignette enabled by default. Let's maybe change the amount. And you can also adjust the size. Halation also enabled by default. So halation is clearly visible where we have a high contrast, where we have the lights and then the shadows. And you can also adjust the hue of it. Then we have the bloom. The bloom and halation go hand in hand. So if you enable one, also enable the other one. Then we have the grain. In the grain section we have some presets, as if it was taken with a certain type of analog film. So 65 is good enough, but you can make any changes that you want to have a custom look. And you can also use image defocus if you want to defocus the image. Then we have the flicker. For this to be visible, we have to play the clip. So I'll increase the amount so you can see it, and the rate so this is clearly visible that it is flickering. I'll put this back to defaults. Then we have gate weave. You also need to play this to actually see the changes, so I will again increase the amount and rate. So with the gate weave, I'm not really seeing a lot of changes, but that could just be me and maybe this clip. Then we have the film gate disabled by default, and this border kind of represents the film strip, but it's missing something. It's missing the film holes. So let's go over these presets. And then you also have a custom setting. This is basically the ratio between the width and the height. Though in this case, I think they messed up a little bit because the vertical is not changing. This is also set to horizontal. So in this case, as you can see, it doesn't matter which one you change. They do the exact same thing. But what you can do is use the padding to kind of zoom in and out. And if you don't like the rounded edges, you can disable the curvature. Now that's the fill gate, and lastly you have the global blend. So this is the after and this is the before. Looks quite stylish. Now let's take a look at the Dehancer. Now this shot is not mine. Let's see what we have. Video codec high L 3.2. But I don't know anything else about it. This is the default look. You have the source, so you can select a camera, but let's say that this was shot on a Panasonic, and you can then choose from this list of cameras if this was shot on a, let's say, Sony. They also added a bunch of Sony cameras, so you can go over the different kind of looks. Maybe it was shot on this one, who knows, and maybe it was this one. You can then adjust the exposure, the temperature, the tint, the fringe, and the fringe radius, if you want to enable it. So that is what you have for the inputs. Then you have the film. This is where all of the magic is when it comes to Dehancer. You have a bunch of profiles, and these are old school cameras or analog ones. So you can go over the different kind of looks if you want to have a specific kind of look. Maybe I'll go with this Kodak Eurocool 4125. Leave the values to default. We have the film developer options. We can enable them. We know what this is. We don't have any idea what this does, so we'll just find out. So we can push some blacks, correct the gamma, separate the colors, not really noticeable in this case, color boost, the film compression. Let's enable it, see what it does. We can adjust the impact of the film compression, set the white point, tonal range, and the color density. Expand. I think this is a new section. So we have the black point, the white point, and color mode. Let's go with Luma. So there is a tiny difference between normal and Luma, at least in this section. Then you have the print settings. I don't see a lot of a difference. There is some in the grain, but these are the options that you have available. since I've selected the codec preset previously, I'll use this one. Looks good to me. Then we have the color head. You have to enable it to see the changes. You can adjust individual colors. If you use the gang option, this will adjust all of them at once. You can also adjust the tones in the shadows, midtones, and highlights. You can then keep the exposure and adjust the impact, how this color head impacts the whole clip. Then we have the film grain enabled by default, and it also has a bunch of presets, as you can see, similarly to what DaVinci Resolve has implemented. But in this case we have a lot more presets to choose from, and we can also adjust the amount of grain. Then we have halation and bloom disabled by default, so let's simply enable them. You also have the mask mode, so you see what it affects. In this case, I don't see anything in this profile, so maybe if I would change the profile and adjust the amount, I would see something. I still don't see anything in this case. Maybe if I go to the halation, in the halation I do see some lines, so this is where the halation will be happening. As for the bloom, it's not visible, at least I don't see it in this example. Now we have some film damage, we can enable it. So we have some film damage. If I change the presets, we can see what that does. I will disable the film damage for now. Now we also have the film breath and some presets that you can choose from. Again, you will have to play the clip to actually see the changes. We have the gate weave. This one is a bit of a zoomed in option. And we have overscan. Now the overscan option is similar to what Film Look Creator has with Film Gate, except in this case we do have these holes that you can adjust if you change the preparation mode from negative to positive, but you can also disable it to not have any holes. So changing the exposure is kind of bringing the bloom and halation. You can adjust the scale of this if you don't want the whole effect to be visible, and you can also adjust the gate defocus. Now you do also have a bunch of presets, so let me go maybe over them and change this back to how it was. So the overscan effect, in my opinion, does look a lot nicer than what the film gate looks like in DaVinci Resolve. Now let's see the playback and disable the static gate. As you can see, the playback is quite choppy, so let's go to proxy resolution, set this to quarter to hopefully get a smooth playback. Nope, it's still not smooth, so maybe let's disable all of the options that we don't need and just take a look at that effect. With the static gate disabled, this is what is being animated, and if it is enabled, this is then static. Then we also have the vignette option. You can adjust the exposure of it, the size, but maybe let's disable the overscan so we can actually see the changes. So you can change the aspect ratio to get the usual type of vignette, change the size, and the feather option. By default you won't see the vignette because the feather option is set to 100. So you have to lower the value down if you just want to have it on the edges. And this size cannot go over 100, so this is what you have to work with. So you have to push the aspect ratio if you just want to affect the edges. And also you cannot change the color of it if that is what you wanted. You then have also the monitor. You have the false colors Now the false color is also available in DaVinci Resolve as a separate effect. And this is where we have some clipping because we have too much blacks. So this is what you can also use to make fine adjustments and adjust the total output of the effect. So maybe let's go back and enable the options that we've enabled before. I think the most intensive effect in the Dehancer plugin is the film grain, so if you want to have a smooth playback while you do some testing, simply disable it. Enable halation, enable bloom. We have some film damage, so this is the film damage. You can adjust the amount, how much you have. Enable film breadth and the gate weave, why not? And also I will enable the overscan and I will go with the negative one so that the whites don't pop out too much. And now I could also adjust the vignette and maybe decrease the size. And this is how the vignette effect looks like with this preset of the overscan. So you can make some stylish effects. Now let's say that I also want to export this as a LUT. LUT includes all currently enabled plugin settings except grain, bloom, halation and vignette effects. So I'll put that on my desktop, put another clip on. Now if I want to use that LUT, I will have to go to Color Management, Lookup Table, open the LUT folder and paste the one that Dehancer made inside here. I will update the list, save it, and now if I go to the Color tab, I should be able to see the LUT. Dehancer, so this one's it. I will apply it. And let's go back to the edit page and see what the difference is between these two effects. So this is what the result is of the LUT. It's missing a lot of the effects like the film grain, overscan, gate weave, film damage, and maybe even something else. So this is the default clip. This is what you can get if you export the LUT, missing a bunch of effects. And this is the clip with all of the effects applied inside Dehancer. Now if I go and disable overscan, and in this case also disable film damage, just so we can compare it to the film look creator. So clearly there is some difference. This does look like a film, and this also looks like a film taken with an analog film camera. If I wanted to get the same kind of look, I would have to choose something with a more bluish tint. This already happens with the source that you select. And then the second option is also the film profile. This will also change the overall look and feel of the end result. Now you could still go into the color page and also do some color correction if that is what you feel you need to do. Now I am no expert when it comes to the film look, but I do like both the Dehancer plugin and the film look creator that comes in DaVinci Resolve Studio. If you just want something simple to use and gives you a film look, I suggest you buy DaVinci Resolve. It not only comes with the film look creator effect, it also has a bunch of other options. One of those would be the magic mask. Inside the color page, also the fusion page, you will be able to transcribe audio, also have speaker detection if you have interviews. You can have text-based editing, as you can see. If you click on audio, you will have voice isolation and dialogue leveler. This was also in DaVinci Resolve 18. But now, if you click on the audio track and open the inspector and have a bunch of new options, and you will have access to dialogue separator, music remixer, and Docker. And these are just some of the tools that you will have access to if you have the studio version of DaVinci Resolve. As opposed to an authentic analog film look, which if that is what you want, Dehancer is for you. And it also allows you to select a camera source with a push of a button. And this will immediately change the look and the feel of the video. Now which one is for you? Is it the film look creator inside DaVinci Resolve Studio or the Dehancer plugin? If it's the quality that you're after and authenticity, then Dehancer. Otherwise, I would suggest to get DaVinci Resolve Studio and get all of the other bonuses as well. You will get free updates. Not to mention, you only have to buy it once. Now in case you do want to buy Dehancer, I do have a 10% discount code in the description. If you found this video useful and would like to see more DaVinci Resolve content, subscribe to the channel. I'm Simon and until next time, Jackal, keep it digital.